Hello there, cinema lovers!
Welcome to FilmStorm. Whether we like his style or not, we cannot deny Tim Burton's rich imagination and his own unique aesthetic. In the 1980s and 1990s, he reigned on the silver screen thanks to the combination of several ingredients that distinguished his works. These ingredients are primarily the inspiration drawn from German Expressionism, Gothic novels, and a combination of ugliness, even the macabre, with beauty, innocence and charm. However, in the early 2000s, when Tim Burton moved away from his signature ingredients, his star began to fade, and his films started to receive lower ratings.
Recently, however, we have witnessed a kind of revival, if not of the style, then at least of an interest in Tim Burton. And we are talking about the series Wednesday, which, even though it is full of the typical Netflix teenage drama and rather poor parodies of Hogwarts, the series is still great to watch. So what sets Wednesday apart, that despite lacking in style, typical of other Burton classics, it instantly became as popular as Beetlejuice, Edward Scissorhands or Corpse Bride? Answers coming soon.
I think I'm going to love it here.
As it turns out, the characteristic components of Burton's style are nothing if they lack the basic link, that is, properly tailored characters for his fantastic stories, and then placing them in opposition to average, boring or even irritating side characters. And no, it's not necessarily about a typical Burton hero who is a misunderstood recluse. The word outsider is closer, but you also need to be able to create a good, unconventional outsider. After all, the eponymous Beetlejuice is a unique outsider, focused on himself and his needs, while craving interaction with the other characters. And when he does interact with them, apart from being obscene and repulsive, he introduces unique creativity and elements of farce, exposing the grotesqueness and shallowness of our reality and its inhabitants. Beetlejuice makes you, metaphorically of course, want to be dead.
A similar situation occurs in Corpse Bride. Even though both the titular bride and her accidentally married groom are much closer to typical Burton heroes, the world of the dead, in which they find themselves, is full of life, and one wants to be in it, unlike the monotonous world of the living, inhabited by painfully boring characters. The last of the hit movies mentioned here, Edward Scissorhands, a variation of Frankenstein's monster, is a new, only at first glance more spooky version of Prometheus, bringing us a new dimension of love and gentleness. Edward is an outsider, but not by choice. His positive otherness is constructed in such a way as to make us realize how much the other ordinary inhabitants are abnormal in their ordinariness, constantly preoccupied with silly things, and therefore so are we.
So what about Wednesday and Netflix? This series is constructed a little bit like a matryoshka doll, something unseen in Burton's films before. We have ordinary townspeople who are painfully boring and predictable, students of Nevermore Academy who are only slightly less boring and predictable than the townspeople, and Wednesday, who changes everything. She's almost the only original character worth watching who combines the typical features of a Burton hero, such as being a dark, misunderstood outsider, with something fresh. Wednesday, unlike Edward, likes to be misunderstood and rejected.
I act as if I don't care if people dislike me. Deep down, I secretly enjoy it.
And she shows the hypocrisy and artificiality of reality even more clearly and with greater precision than Beetlejuice.
Genießen Sie Ihr authentisches Pilgerfahrt als Kakaobohnen, bezogen von den unterdrückten und Bewohnern des Amazonas. Was? Alle nehmen dazu, dass armselige Schüchtern vorbereitet amerikanischen Geschichte auch frisch durchhalten. Übrigens, Fudge wurde erst 258 Jahre später erfunden. Hat jemand Interesse?
And finally, she is an opponent, whether in combat or in simple conversation, that is not to be messed with. However, the series is built in such a way as to present Wednesday from the best possible perspective and the other characters as victim of her one-liners and cutting retorts. This encourages viewers to turn a blind eye to the very existence of other characters and wait only for their interactions with Wednesday. And now the important question is this. If in his previous films Burton ridiculed mediocrity and contrasted it with extraordinary, what is he mocking here? Well, Tim Burton, consciously or not, created a parody and ridicule of Netflix itself, in particular the Netflix formula for shallow teenage dramas.
Had Wednesday been surrounded by more valuable characters who represent something more instead of paper puppets who usually cannot respond to any retort or taunt and are more like elements of stage design than living, thinking people, she might have shone a little less, but the series would have certainly benefited from this. Meanwhile, the shallowness inherent in many Netflix productions, now replicated to some extent in the series, paradoxically contributed to the popularity of Wednesday itself. A similar situation with a pop culture phenomenon revolving around one character occurred with the release of Suicide Squad, a film that would have gone completely unnoticed without Harley Quinn. But thanks to that character, brilliantly played by Margot Robbie, it gained immensely in popularity. However, it must be remembered that one character, even exceptionally written and played, will not hide all the production's flaws.
When I first watched Wednesday, it was a nice viewing experience and I had a great time seeing Jenna Ortega on screen. Wednesday's relatives, the Addams family, were also a pleasant surprise. Maybe except for Pugsley, who is simply bland, as always, but it doesn't bother the viewer. Unfortunately, the remaining characters were only background pieces and the main antagonists were a one-dimensional disappointment. What would we like to see in the second season? The answer seems straightforward. Better developed characters, an even more interesting crime mystery, and a non-obvious villain. And of course Wednesday with her great one-liners, but I guess we don't have to worry about that.
That's all for today. If you want our channel to grow and our videos to appear more often, you can support us on Patreon, the link to which can be found in the description below. In the meantime, take care and see you soon. Bye.